Hi, and welcome to today's Engaging for Missouri webinar. I'm Alice Roach from the Division of Applied Social Sciences at the University of Missouri, and I'll be your webinar host. So with this webinar series, we intend to facilitate a discussion focused on research-based insights that leaders like you can apply in your own work to benefit and strengthen the state's agriculture and food system, hospitality sector, and communities. So today we have Dr. Seonghee Cho joining us to present about the impacts of the coronavirus on the hospitality and travel industry. Before I invite Dr. Cho to begin, I want to share a few housekeeping notes. First, we'll close the webinar today with a 20-minute question and answer session. Those of you who connected to today's webinar via your computer, you can submit questions that you have in the chat screen. To open the chat, you can click the chat button in the menu. You can then open the chat screen further in its own window by going to the arrow to the left of the word chat and choosing pop out when you click on that arrow. If you joined by phone, then you can email me questions at roacham@missouri.edu. I'll compile the questions that are submitted during our speaker's presentation and then restate those questions at the end of our presentation. Second, if you encounter any technical difficulties during today's webinar, then please bring those difficulties to our attention by submitting a comment in the chat screen, or again, you can also send me an email at roacham@missouri.edu. Third, we will make a recorded version of the webinar available to you. You can look for an email message in about a day from now with a link to that recorded copy. So now we will transition to the topic of today's webinar, titled Impacts of Coronavirus on the Hospitality and Travel Industry. Presenting on this topic is Dr. Seonghee Cho, who is the University of Missouri's Hospitality Management Program Chair, and she's also an Associate Professor of Hospitality Management in the MU Division of Applied Social Sciences. So thank you, Seonghee, for being here today. If you could please start your video, we can begin your presentation.
Okay, I hope that you can see me. All right. Okay, my name is Seonghee Cho, and thank you for joining this webinar this morning. I'll go over the overall impacts of coronavirus on the hospitality and travel industry. Since this is a very rapidly changing situation, the impacts of virus on the industry will be greater than what I'm going to present today. So in this presentation, we will look at the impacts in the hotel industry, restaurant industry, event and conference industry, and I'll present the overall impacts of the coronavirus for the industry, and I will end my presentation by presenting the impacts in the state of Missouri. So hotel industry, when this started in China, from February 1st to March 9th this year, about 2,000 hotels in China were closed due to the virus, and the occupancy rate for China, Italy, and South Korea has declined by 78% for the week of March 2nd, 2020. Over 30 countries around the world experienced from 10 to 66% decline in the occupancy rate for the week of March 2nd, and United States had a decline of 12% in the same period, according to STRL's Managing Director Robin Rossman. STRL is Smith Travel Research. It's a consulting or data collection company in the United States, and it's the largest research company in the hotel sector, and they collect financial information from hotels around the world. And about 80% of hotels in the United States are members of STL. That means that about 80% of hotels report their data to STL weekly, daily, weekly, and monthly. So let's look at the hotel industry. So from March 1st to 7th, and we don't have the data yet. They haven't released the data yet. I think they will release either today or tomorrow for the financial information for the last week. But from March 1st to 7th, this is the United States started feeling the impacts of the coronavirus. So for that week, occupancy rate was declined by 7.3%. ADL, average daily rate, that's the price that consumers should pay per room. That was declined by 4.6%, and RevPAR was declined 11.6%. RevPAR is the most important financial indicator the hotel industry uses. It's revenue per available room. Basically, it's a combination of occupancy and average daily rate. For the March 8th to 14th, the week of March 8th, occupancy. So this is the coronavirus. That week, coronavirus was getting really serious, and occupancy rate was down by 32.5%. And overall, in the United States, the occupancy rate was 53%. That means that half of the rooms was sold. ADL was down by 10.7%, and therefore RevPAR was down by about 33%. And these numbers will be worse for the week of March 14 till this Sunday, because that's the coronavirus was getting really bad. This chart was created by CBRE. CBRE is the largest real estate management company in the world, and they also collect data and collaborate with STL. So according to CBRE, and this chart gives a pretty good overview of hotel occupancy in terms of impacts of the coronavirus. So when the China, January 18th, that's about the few cases were reported in China, their occupancy rate was around the 68%. And within a week, the China's occupancy rate went down to 37% or 36%. And as of February 1st, or February 8th, in China, the occupancy rate was about 9%. That means that only one of 10 hotel rooms were sold in China. And then if you look at the recovery scenario, that's based on China's data, and the occupancy rate is kind of going up as the coronavirus was kind of stable in China. This is a lot of people ask, they compare coronavirus to 9/11 attack and 2008 recession, and this table was created by STL as well. So if we look at the week ending after 9/11 attack, September 22nd, 2001, the RevPAR for the hotel industry was down 38%. The following week, it went up, so the RevPAR was declined only 24.8%. If you look at the 2009 recession, the RevPAR was down by 25%, and of course, it recovered a little bit, and it was only down 18%. Coronavirus, for the week of March 14th, the RevPAR was down 32.5%. Following week will be likely worse, and we haven't seen the bottom yet, so this number will go down as we experience more coronavirus cases in the United States. This is kind of overview of the hotel industry. There are about 2 million employees in January 2020 in the United States. In 2017, I couldn't find 2018 or 2019 data yet because they have never released. In 2017, the hotel industry generated $266 billion in sales. So this data kind of gives us the magnitude of impacts of the coronavirus in the hotel industry. Currently, this is few examples of what the hotel industry is doing. So MGM, which is the largest casino and gaming company, They closed all properties in Las Vegas. Bellagio is one of them, MGM Mirage is one of them, Caesars Palace. So everything is closed in Las Vegas and several others in other states. Walt Disney closed locations in Anaheim, Orlando, Paris, Disney, and also owned operated hotels throughout the world. Hilton CEO Christian Nasseret announced, I think last week, that most of its hotels in major US cities are closed and occupancy rate can fall to 10%. That's his expectation. And Aaron Sorensen, who is CEO of Marriott International, the Marriott is also closing major hotels in major cities. Marriott International currently employs 130,000 employees and more than 5,300 properties around the world. And this number does not include number of properties and employees from franchise hotels. And Marriott has more franchise hotels than directly managing properties. And Marriott International, they announced it last week as well. They started laying off employees or furloughing employees as well, and also they have a hiring freeze this year. So that will impact our students directly, because last year Marriott International was the largest employer for our program, and we have currently several students. They already have jobs secured starting in summer. As of now, I don't know what that will happen. I anticipate that those employment will be on hold, and it's possible that our students need to find a job at different companies. Let's look at the restaurant industry. Restaurant industry is probably has this most severe impact affected by the coronavirus. In 2017, restaurant industry had $691 billion in sales, and they have 12 million jobs in restaurant industry. Currently, 20 states have ordered all restaurants to be closed, and they only allow for delivery and pickup. And based on the calculation, that we are expecting the restaurant industry will lose about $225 billion in sales, and it can cause 7 million jobs eliminated or lost in the restaurant industry in the United States. And these numbers are pretty, in my opinion, pretty accurate, because if you look at the graphs charts by the U.S. Central Census Bureau, that each month the restaurant industry about puts $67 billion in sales. So if you combine 3 months, that's about $225 billion. This is I found these numbers for these 4 cities which have most of the coronavirus cases. So New York City, the reservations walk-ins are down by 69%. This is as of March 15, 2020. Overall in the United States, reservations walk-ins are down 48% and 20% down since March 10th. Events and conferences. So as we all know, that most events and conference meetings are canceled till May and June. If we look at the Kansas City and St. Louis market, just 2 largest markets in the state of Missouri, they have lost over $100 million in sales due to the cancellation, and the meetings were expected to generate over 152,000 hotel room nights. Some of these meetings are rescheduled towards the end of the year, and some meetings are just canceled. So the Kansas City and St. Louis will see the major loss due to the meetings and conferences. Let's go to the Missouri. So for the state of Missouri, hospitality travel industry generates about $1.1 billion, about $1 billion in sales. and oh no, I'm sorry. Every quarter, that was my calculation. That Missouri for the March, April, and May. This is very rough calculation that I based on the first quarter and second quarter sales. And assume that half of the sales will be gone. That is about $1.1 billion loss in revenue. And for the state of Missouri hospitality and travel industry, kind of generates about $2 billion in taxable sales. U.S. Travel Association predicts that due to the coronavirus, 4.6 million jobs will be lost due to the virus, and that will result in the nationwide unemployment rate goes up from 3.5 to 6.3%. I just read yesterday some organizations are expecting the unemployment rate can go up to 9%. And total spending on domestic travel will be down by $355 billion. So this is 30% down compared to last year. And this is more than 6 times the impact of 9/11. So the impact of coronavirus will be the greatest compared to anything that we experienced recently. So what are these data tell us? We are expecting about 18 months for recovery in employees. This is what you can tell the small businesses that you interact. So employees who lost their jobs due to coronavirus, they can apply for unemployment benefits. And for small businesses, they can ask lenders to go interest only if possible. And many lenders started doing this. And small businesses can contact insurance carriers about business interruption coverage. It's very unlikely because the pandemic is not covered, but it's worth to try. And small business, especially restaurants, they should minimize variable costs. And they can also, restaurants can contact food delivery service companies to see they will include their restaurants in their system. So for example, DoorDash just added 100,000 independent restaurants to their system for free. So they're not collecting any commissions for deliveries from restaurants for 30 days. Grubhub, they also announced no commission from independent restaurants up to $100 million sales. BuySport, no delivery fees with promotional code inside. So this is for the customers. If they want to order food from BuySport, the customers can enter this promotional code to waive, to have no delivery fees. And sometimes restaurants also started providing free deliveries, such as Chipotle and KFC. Pizza Hut announced that they will employ 10,000 deliveries because they have so many delivery orders. So those employees who lost a job, they can apply and get a temporary job through the big chains who need deliveries. And Small Business Bureau just announced that the small businesses in the state of Kansas, Missouri, they can apply economic injury disaster loan program. So now small business can seek for loans from Small Business Administration. And restaurants, small restaurants, for more information about coronavirus, they can visit that link. All right, that's all what I have. And if you have any questions, there is my email address that you can send me an email with the further questions, and I will hand this to Alice.
Thank you, Seonghee, for presenting today. Just a reminder to participants, if you do have questions, we have about 10 minutes left for questions. You can send them in the chat screen. So just type your question and then be sure to press enter so that question gets to us. Or if you would like to submit your questions via email, you can do that. My email is roacham@missouri.edu. So Seonghee, while we're waiting for participants to submit questions, I have a few that I'm hoping that you could help to address. The first is that you talked about how businesses and conferences were suspending travel or their plans for conferences here in the short term. So business travel is clearly taking a hit. To what extent is leisure travel also experiencing a downturn because of the coronavirus?
That's why the impact of coronavirus is greater than 9/11 or recession, because after 9/11 and recession, after 9/11 had a great impact on business travelers because companies banned the travels, business to travels for their employees. But leisure travelers, they did not cancel their planned trips due to the terrorist attack. Therefore, the impact was kind of minimized into the business to travel sectors. But coronavirus, everybody is canceling meetings. Everybody canceling travels. I mean, personally, we had a travel plan in March going to California and Nevada. We canceled that. I have so many people canceled their spring break trips. And also, currently, 4 states now have a lockdown policy. That means that you cannot travel unless you cannot get out of your house unless it is for essential, like going to grocery stores or pharmacy. And St. Louis and Kansas City, that's the 2 big cities in Missouri. They also have a lockdown starting tomorrow. That means that people cannot travel. So all the businesses already canceled their meetings and their travels for their employees. And leisure travelers, they're not traveling. Therefore, the impact of coronavirus on the hospitality industry is great. We don't know how much, what is the economic impacts there will be, but will be, as I said, they're expecting 6 times higher than 9/11 attack.
Right, thank you for that. We do have a question in our chat. There's a question about, is there a way to estimate losses among contract workers? So drivers for Uber and Lyft, for example.
I didn't hear anything about the contract workers, such as drivers, but based on what I read and hear, that they're actually in high demand. The Amazon just announced that they're gonna hire, I can't remember the exact number. It is 10,000 or 100,000. They need more drivers to deliver.
Okay.
So that's another way that employees who lost a job or temporarily lost, that they can apply for delivery because Amazon is just their delivery time is delayed by more than a month right now. That's what we see. So if you order something on Amazon, which if it's not essential, then you will see the expected delivery time in April, end of April.
Wow.
And that is same for if you have a Prime membership, it doesn't matter. It's delayed because of lack of delivery persons that Amazon has.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Another question that I have is that you talked about entertainment venues, particularly in St. Louis and Kansas City, basically shutting down because of coronavirus. Is there any way to measure the economic impact of the effect of coronavirus shutdowns on smaller venues? For instance, weddings can't go on and we're entering into wedding season. What's the total cumulative effect of no events happening?
That is not possible to collect data unless we ask individual small venues, because there is no entity or organization collecting that type of data.
Sure.
But we can see the sales, taxable sales. Every single business has to report their sales to the Department of Revenue of the state. So we can sort that out, and I can kind of estimate. I can look at the number from last year and can project the expected loss this year. However, that number does not separate small businesses from big convention like arena. So it's kind of all lumped together.
Sure. Okay. We have a lot of folks on our webinar today who are out in rural communities and any community throughout Missouri. So what type of resources can communities consider offering to assist individuals who are employees or businesses in the hospitality and travel industry to help them get through this period?
So for owners of small businesses, that they definitely need to visit Small Business Administration. They have resources, financial resources for them to survive. So this is the surviving time that businesses have to survive till probably summer, and everybody's kind of anticipating by summer the coronavirus will be stabilized. And people can start going out to eat or travel. So businesses have to have a cash to float. So they can definitely get temporary or emergent loans from Small Business Administration or Bureau so that they can survive. And also employees who lost their job, they can definitely apply for the unemployment benefits, and also look for other temporary jobs available, such as delivery persons for big chain restaurants. They definitely need more people to deliver their foods.
Sure. Well, I think we have time for one more question. In many areas, restaurants have resolved to stay open, even as you mentioned, in Kansas City and St. Louis, there's a limit on the number of people you can have in any one establishment. So what recommendations would you share with those businesses, particularly restaurants, as they're looking to maybe add delivery or improve or increase the extent to which delivery is a portion of their business? I mean, where do they go to become good at meal delivery, for instance? How can they collect information about how to improve those areas of their business?
Right. So delivery food, if you look at the revenue of restaurants, it has been about 10% of their total sales were done by delivery and pickups. And because the restaurants are closed for dine-in, so restaurants, in order to survive, if they haven't started, they must start delivery and pickup services. And the big food delivery companies such as DoorDash is a great resource. They can reach out to them because DoorDash not collecting any commissions. That means that restaurants can be in their system for free. And a lot of consumers use a DoorDash for food delivery. And so that's the first step that small restaurants must do to survive. And also they should advertise on their website, if they have a website, just revise their website and put the information of the coronavirus and what they do to deal with the coronavirus in terms of sanitizing their restaurants, what employees do in terms of washing hands, do they wear masks when they cook, etc., etc. So that gives the consumers, make customers comfortable and feel safe by ordering food from them. I think that's the two biggest recommendation that I can give. And just remember, this is a surviving mode. Just survive for this 3 months, then it will get better.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Cho, for sharing today's webinar presentation, and thank you to our audience too. When you exit Zoom, you'll see a post-webinar survey will load in your web browser. Please consider responding to the survey, as we'll use your feedback to improve the webinar experience and brainstorm future webinar topics. Also, watch your email for access to a recorded version of today's webinar. Additionally, Dr. Cho has recorded a presentation that gives an overview of the hospitality and tourism industries. So I would encourage you to take a look at that video too, as it provides some context about, again, the scope of these industries. We'll be back for our next Engaging for Missouri webinar on Wednesday. At that time, Dr. Seth Meyer, Associate Director of FAPRI, will share highlights from the 2020 Baseline Outlook for Ag Markets, which was released last week. If you need a registration link for Wednesday, then please email me at roacham@missouri.edu. That Wednesday webinar will take place from 10 a.m. to 10:30. Again, thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned for more information about further or future webinar presentations. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Seonghee.
Thanks, Alex.